Thank you, AV guys, for Justin Timberlake. I did not choose that, but I'm cool. Who's not cool with Justin Timberlake? So I'm so excited to be here to talk to you guys today about my favorite buzzword. We've heard a lot of buzzwords today. And that's about customization. Our company is all about customization. We've seen a lot of people try it. And so I want to talk to you guys about the implications of that and how we're sort of pushing the envelope forward in the retail space. So as I mentioned, we've heard about omni-channel, we've heard about attribution, we've heard about data personalization, and our favorite buzzword and our key thesis in our business is about customization. So if you don't know about Bow and Drape, what we do is we make custom clothing for women with lots of personality. So we like to consider ourselves a Build-A-Bear for fashion. You can come onto our website currently, design on a bunch of really fun blanks in all kinds of ways. You can add lettering, baubles, all kind of embellishments, and then we ship it to you in about 2 weeks to your door. And we do this for primarily the millennial generation. So we've been called the sort of custom company for the millennial generation, which is sort of young, 25 to 30-year-old, 35-year-old women looking for clothes to help express themselves. And so we are not the first people to do this. When we started this company, there were many people who did this before us. Does anybody know who the first company to introduce mass customization to the market was? Totally. So in the 70s, Burger King was the first company, and now it's so ubiquitous that no one even questions it, right? Like if you want a burrito at Chipotle, you can hold the guac, you can add extra onions. But Burger King was really the first place to introduce the idea of choice at a scalable level to the mass market. So I'm going to play the little, if there's AV. I can't hear. Oh, if you can't hear the music anyway. They have a lovely jingle for all you marketers. And they're really excited because they couldn't decide their...
Pure beef hamburgers ahead of time. You want your Whopper built some special way, you get it without a lot of waiting. Have it your way, Burger King.
Awesome marketing. So we've come a long way from that, right? That was sort of the first instance of it. And since then, we've seen a lot of companies and brands attempt customization in the market. So we've seen Nike do it, we've seen snowboards, we've seen bicycles, we've seen food. And academics have said by 2020, 15% of all clothing in the retail space is going to be customized in some way, whether that's fit, style, color, whatever, right? And if MIT and Harvard say it, it must be true. So what happened? Like why over the past 30 years has this revolution not taking off? Because it's hard. It's hard on a couple levels. So one thing is great UX is really hard. Businesses that are ready to wear with a set amount of SKUs already have challenges creating great user experiences. With custom, it's even harder. So I'm going to pick on a big guy for a little bit. Burberry has a custom trench line, and it built a $1.2 million sort of build out of its site in Flash, which is sad for them, all around this idea of customizing your trench. Now, it's beautiful, don't get me wrong, but what is really hard about making this right is that you have to engineer and architect choice for consumers in the right way. So I actually grabbed one of these little jellies because this is sort of the famous experiment that happened. It was called the sort of paradox of choice experiment, and it was in a grocery store. So they lined all these women up in a high-end grocery store, and they said, here's a table with 6 jams on it, and here's a table with 24 jams. And they saw and tracked how many times women went up to investigate the jams, and then what the purchase behavior was after. And what was shocking to them was that 30% of women came back and bought jams from the sort of more controlled group, from the 6-choice table, and only 3% of women came back and purchased jams from the table with 24 jams. So I think that that's one of the biggest challenges that we have creating custom experiences online, is that people aren't used to that much choice, and it's actually debilitating for that much choice. So if you can see here, there's, within each of these sort of steps, there's about 8 steps, and there's between 20 and 120 variations and choices within those steps to make your decision. So that's pretty overwhelming for the typical customer. Pricing is also really hard. Manufacturing, I mean, retailers here, I'm sure, have their struggles with manufacturing. We definitely do, but it's really hard to do sort of just-in-time manufacturing with moving components. We build every single piece that we make to order, and we have no minimums on how many items people are going to buy. So it's extremely challenging to create an efficient supply chain that can deliver that in a very short time frame. So we deliver in under 2 weeks. Most custom companies really struggle to deliver something, especially if they're working overseas, in that amount of time frame. And Amazon has made it only harder for people with sort of, I mean, we were talking yesterday at the table. Someone was saying that they ordered 400 times from Amazon this year, which is more than once a day. And that's amazing, but it's possible because Prime allows you to, as long as you can wait 24 hours for something, it doesn't matter. You could get your toothpaste. So that's really hard, and then pricing's hard too, right? Like, we're not really delivering on the promise of mass customization if, in order to buy something, you have to pay a huge premium on it. So why even try? I ask myself this every day. But we really think that there's one sort of critical component about why it's worth trying, why this is a really important trend in the industry. There's a luxury in retail conference that happens every year in New York. And for the past 2 years, they've sort of found and reported on a fundamental shift, especially in younger generations, around what luxury means. And so we really believe this to be true. What they found is that luxury is no longer about having things and having exclusivity. It's about being and doing. It's about experiencing something and being part of that process. So if someone wants to go on a trip, they want to Airbnb in the coolest surf spot. They don't want to necessarily go to the highest end resort that no one can get reservations to. And so we've seen this fundamental shift and have started to incorporate that into our business and think that that custom can really then engender different behaviors around customer loyalty and satisfaction with their brands. So the first thing is, in our UX, we encourage people to get involved as much as possible to have that experience. So you can see there's sort of defined choice architecture, so we have no more than 6 choices here in terms of what someone can customize on our site. And then you'll see as well that we prompt someone to save their creation. So the language is all around, it's your creation, and we allow them to then post that publicly to the site and share it out so that they feel ownership over that actual garment. We then take it a step further, and we actually highlight our funniest community members. So people can design things, and every week we have a contest called the Punishers, where the punniest community member gets their design for free and gets 10% commission on all purchases. And so again, this is the idea that we're providing people the recognition and pride of sort of this experience versus just coming to our site and buying a gray sweatshirt. So that's one way. I think you could create really interesting UX that involves people in the process online a little bit differently. We've also started to think about how customization can engender really interesting experiences offline. So as some retailers here may or may not know, retailer in-store is struggling. I mean, was it Andreessen Horowitz said that a quarter of all stores are going to close over the next 20 years? I mean, that's a little doomsday-ish, but I think that there is real struggles about how to engage people in-store, especially millennials. And so we think that customization can be a really interesting way to provide new value in-store and engage customers. So we like to say that our in-store experience, which we're just developing, is faster than fast fashion. We actually call it instant fashion. So we're piloting this year with a national retailer the idea that you can come in-store in the time it would take you to pick out a garment and buy it. You can come, look at all the sort of tactile elements of what you're going to design it on an iPad. We'll make it for you, you can take a selfie with it, and then you can walk away in under an hour. And so that, again, to the idea that we're involving our customers in the process and allowing them to be versus have, that can provide a compelling and unique experience for someone that reinvents the way that you would shop and reinvents the way that you would even orient yourself to why you would go into a store. And this is a sort of mock-up of one of our spaces. But I'm not, this is just not in a vacuum. This is not like us theoretically being like, yeah, all this investment will be really good for us. The proof is in the pudding in our metrics. So you can see these are some of the top companies, retail companies' NPS scores. And this is our NPS score that we've enjoyed. So our customers are hugely satisfied, have a huge sort of referral loop. And so we're sort of best in class in that. And our returns have remained under 5%, which I'm sure all these retailers don't have and would love to have. But what we've seen is that customers in surveys and in follow-on questionnaires is that when you make something and when it's quality, you're more satisfied with the end product, which makes sense, right? We're all sort of prideful beings. We want to, that's why everybody loves their kids. That's why we don't eat our babies, I guess. They look like us. So, takeaways. I thought that this presentation was 15 minutes, so I left 5 minutes for questions, so it's going to be a little bit shorter. We're like almost to the end. But my takeaways are custom experiences are really hard to build. There's a lot of complexity operationally, technologically, investment-wise, but they can be worth their weight in gold. And I think that you don't have to start a custom clothing company to build interesting experiences for customers and take them along that journey. We've seen brands like Kate Spade Saturday has just a bestseller, their best-selling weekender bag, and they allow customers, their top customers, to customize it. So it's something that brands have done as far as top customer activation, clienteling, different sort of marketing and brand loyalty initiatives that you can sort of build in components of customization, or we think people should, given what we've seen in our early data. And then if you can get it right and allow customers to become a part of your product story, that they're going to be much more satisfied with it and hopefully more loyal in this sort of really challenging time where it's not enough, or at least in our view, it's not enough to just put products on a page and hope that someone gets there, that you really have to keep someone coming back and creating interesting experiences for them. So that's it.
Okay, Aubrie, thank you very much. Excellent use of emojis.
Thank you.
I think that's a new trend. I have a quick question for you before I let you go. Hold on.
Yeah, oh yeah.
What is like a non-retailer site that you think really nails the customer experience?
A non-retail site?
A non-retail site that you think retailers can actually learn from. I always think it's good to look outside the category.
That's a really good question. I think there's, I mean, in terms of, I might even go to like media. Like I think that some media companies have done a really good job of serving up really interesting custom content.
Mm-hmm.
So if you guys are familiar with the company Medium, I think that
Yep.
Medium does a really interesting job of involving the community and sort of upvoting different products, knowing, different stories,
Mm-hmm.
like connecting you to different people in the ecosystem who are like you, and then serving up custom content to you based on not only people who are like you, but also people who you've sort of enjoyed before. I think that's probably a really challenging sort of tech innovation, and I think that they do a really good job of authentically building that in using their community to get people involved in user-generated content.
So what is a retail site that you as a consumer use where you're like, just let me fix this? Ideally, someone in the room.
Yeah, I know. A site that I would say, let me fix this. I think that there are a lot of big box companies that have not been sort of digital native companies that have sort of struggled to get that experience right. So without, I don't want to name names, but I do think that especially when you're a retailer that has lots of choice on your site, navigating someone through that is really hard. So an example that's not necessarily a custom site but does really great work is like ModCloth we had here yesterday. Their merchandising is dynamic and really personalized. If you're, I was talking to Susan, and if you're plus size and you come on the site and they know what kind of products you're looking into, the entire experience, the entire merchandising experience changes for you. You won't see the same models, you won't see the same products. So that's really a great use of sort of customization and knowing who your customer is to create this interesting journey for them around models and products that are like them. I think there's a lot of retailers who aren't even close to that. Yeah,
cool.
That's what
Mine is every airline site, just so you know.
Every airline.
Everyone. Anyway, thank you very much.
Yeah.
You're going to be around. We're going to have the breakout sessions in a little bit, in about a half hour.
Thanks,
Thank you very
Brian.
much. Okay, and now we have a coffee break. And back from the coffee